live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. There's more ball to be talked about. There's plenty for us to get to. And I'm, of course, excited for the fact that we've got our first ranking segment of the season. I am sure that we are going to handle it very cordially and calmly, and we will not get mad at one another.
I don't think that there's anything in yours that I necessarily disagree with, to be real with you. I mean, here's how I feel about our power rankings. And I know that people don't like power rankings, but it's just based off of what we believe. Based off of pretty much a power ranking is who you think has done the best to the best. Doesn't mean, and I guess we should preface this, your win-loss record means nothing to me in these power rankings. Absolutely zilch.
No.
I saw people today talking about the AP poll, and people are like, how can this team who's 0-1 be behind this team? Because they're still better. Just because Clemson played LSU, just because Texas played Ohio State, just because Notre Dame played Miami doesn't mean that they're not better than you. You know what? Iowa State fans who are all over it, and we'll talk about you tonight, line the ball up against LSU, Notre Dame, or Texas and see how it goes.
This is a battle that I deal with on a weekly basis so I vote on the national poll, the AP poll for FCS football. And I have to deal with this every single week where it's a lot harder, one, to watch all those games. But the other part about this that's annoying is that you will get those messages that you just talked about where said team has a loss. Why are they ranked so high? Just because you lost does not mean that you're completely removed from the rankings. I think in the top 10 there, I learned a lot from Clemson's loss. I learned a lot from Notre Dame's loss. Until they have an egregiously bad performance against a team that that they should dominate against, I'm not moving them. We have one game, and in the one game,
what about Florida State?
Seriously, in the one game, we learned who was ready to go in week one. And I bet you 4 or 5 of the teams that we have in our top 10s are not in there at the end of the year. The list is going to look completely different.
It will. And see, here's the thing. There is one thing that I will throw your way here today. There is one disagreement that I have with you.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of just mentioned the team there. So we'll talk about it. But our first power rankings of the season, we'll give you our picks, the 5 big games of the weekend and the point spreads. We're doing something very difficult. We're going to give you our game picks of who we think is going to win, but we're also going against the spread to make it a little bit more fun if we had to pick those games. We'll talk about Kansas and Missouri, a big rivalry that's getting back underway here. And we'll talk about Iowa and Iowa State, Joe, as they face off in for the Cy-Hawk Trophy.
Yes, both these games, rivalry games that are very important for the landscape of college football. This Iowa State game, I got to be honest with you. I think that there's this expectation that Iowa State's going to just walk past Iowa. I don't think it's it's that simple. I know Iowa State fans think that we're Iowa State haters. I really don't give a shit. I think that this Iowa team is a lot better than people give it credit for. And I know that they weren't smooth against Albany, but there's a chance, as we said on the last show, for a lot of these teams to improve from week 1 to week 2. It is the 1 week where you see the biggest jump, and then from week 2 to week 3 is usually when we see an even bigger jump.
It is, and listen, I don't think Iowa look worth a damn, to be real with you. Not in what is going to prevent them to getting where they ultimately want to go. And it could rear its big head, pause, here in the next couple of days. But nevertheless, we will get to that as well. Everyone do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. Every show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Go over to FanDuel, sign up today. Got some discretionary income. Use it. Don't go out there if you don't have it. Let's go have some fun. Joe, I am doing every week a $1 20-leg parlay with our good friends over at FanDuel. Alabama, I hate you. Florida State, I hate you because I picked Alabama to win. Didn't happen. But I'm doing a $1 20-leg parlay every single day or every single Saturday. By the way, I started after the 11 a.m. slate and the 3 p.m. slate got here, and I was 6-0. And I'm like, oh, baby, this is so easy. Here we go. And then Alabama
happens every time, man. It happens every time.
Every single time. But If you have a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or go over to FanDuel.com/RG today. Go over there and have some fun. Use some discretionary income, but don't be crazy with it. And we're always supportive of our good friends over at FanDuel. I got to get to one thing here from Alex. He says, in here before Blake has LSU at number 1 in his power rankings. But, Joe, here's the problem. I don't have him number 1 in my power rankings. But let's get to it here. Joe, our first rendition of the season of our power rankings. Your top 10 goes as follows. Tell the good people who you have here.
Number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, LSU. Number 3, Penn State. Number 4, Georgia. Number 5, Oregon. Number 6, Miami. Number 7, Texas. 8, Clemson. 9, Notre Dame. And 10, Florida State.
I want to get to Florida State with you really quickly, but I'm going to read off mine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just before we get started. I have Ohio State at number 1, Penn State at number 2, LSU at 3, Georgia at 4, Oregon at 5, Texas at 6, Florida at 7, Miami at 8, Clemson at 9, and Notre Dame rounding out the top 10. Joe, I gotta throw a bone your way because I want to hear your explanation for this. I don't think that you would have had Florida State in your top 25 power rankings and or if you had an AP poll vote. But today you have them in your top 10 when it comes to power rankings. Justify to me why you have Florida State at number 10.
They were one of the most dominant teams last week in week 1. They checked every box for me for a team to have momentum, to have a quality season. Look, there's plenty of chances for Florida State to shift out and be a little bit more middle of the pack by the end of the year. It's possible. There's still a lot of roster moves and situations that need to get figured out because they had so much turnover, but they were a lot better than anything we expected coming into this season. I really think that Castellanos and Malzahn are a real dangerous combo for what they're going to run this season. For the way that they showed up with intensity, focus, and a desire to embarrass their opponent, that to me is notable. And look, if Alabama didn't lose, Alabama would have been my top 10. If I'm removing Alabama, why not put the team in there that made them look awful, that dominated and that smoked them? I don't think this is an upset situation. I do think that Florida State proved they're worthy of being recognized as one of the best teams in college football.
I think you're right in this regard. The reason that they're not my top 10, I'll get to in just a moment. I do think they look dominant. I do think that they did something that shocked really the college football world because no one expected them other than Lee Corso to go in there and do what they did. Nobody. So when we look at them coming off a 2-10 season, they kind of get their lick back on Alabama after what happened in 2023. They showed there's nobody that had a better win, in my opinion, than Florida State, considering the circumstances. I still think Ohio State and LSU are both up there and could make the argument, but I don't think that they did. The thing that I am pausing with Florida State is this. Is Florida State really good, or is Alabama Because let me tell you why. I saw an Alabama team beat Georgia who won the SEC a season ago. Then the next week, I literally saw them get their shit pushed in by Vanderbilt on the road. Every time they go on the road, pretty much they cannot get it done. So is Florida State the team, Joe, that we think that they are and can be, or is Alabama not just unable to figure it out on the road? Because you can't have Alabama knocking off the SEC champion a year ago and then losing to Vandy, and then they have another road game, and you're like, oh, here we go again. And I got to ask a question. What all did Jalen Milroe really cover up with you? Because Ty Simpson's not the athlete that Jalen Milroe was when Jalen made some of those massive runs. So here's the thing. I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth to some extent. You're 1,000% right. They dominated both lines of scrimmage. They took it to Alabama. How good is Alabama? What if Alabama's 8-4, 7-5 at the end of the season, and we're looking? I don't think they are either. Yeah. But I got to kind of determine what I'm seeing here too.
I don't think they're that bad, and I really don't want to move the goalposts after a performance like that. Like, I think fair. We should be allowed to congratulate and recognize what Florida State did against Alabama without saying that Alabama is crap and they're not going to be a good team this year. I think Alabama will rally, and if they finish 8-4, they're probably still going to finish as a ranked team. An 8-4 team in the SEC finishes in the back end of the top 25 in most rankings, especially with the schedule that they have coming up. But just because they're 8-4, I don't think diminishes the fact that Florida State played the way that they did. It's still a top 30 FBS Power 4 opponent in the hardest conference in college football. I think that it is still recognizable the way that they played. They didn't eke out an unexpected late win because of a big play. They outclassed them on every single level. So that to me is a recognition of you had a challenge and you stepped up to the plate. That's the theme of the rankings. It's typically the theme of when we do these power rankings is who steps up when you are presented with an opportunity to prove yourself, and do you exceed expectations? Not only did they prove themselves, but they also vastly, vastly exceeded expectations.
I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. I can't disagree with you, but I kind of just need to see them continuously have that level of success before I put them up there. All right, Joe, what team do you want to get to on mine here?
I can't get there with Florida yet. I gotta see Florida. I know the Florida LSU game's coming up really soon, and we're gonna have a chance to really tell. I think that Florida is a team that is in the pocket with South Carolina right now. I would almost put, instead of Florida State, I almost put South Carolina in there. So that's my big pushing point here, is that I think that there are other SEC teams and other teams that are a little bit more of a known commodity that I would rather go with than Florida.
You know why I picked Florida or have Florida there besides like a South Carolina or Florida State? Because I trust both lines of scrimmage a little bit more. When I look, as an example here, when I look at Clemson and when I look at Notre Dame, okay, Miami and them are going to play flip-flop them for all I give a damn. I really don't care. I saw a Clemson offensive line get dominated, and I think they have the best interior defensive lineman in the country. Notre Dame, I'm not saying they got pushed around, but I think Florida's offensive line is pretty freaking good. So when you can control lines of scrimmage, and you have what a lot of people believe to be a special quarterback, I saw South Carolina getting a dogfight with Virginia Tech with their offensive line, and they were, I don't want to say lucky, but Lenora Sellers bailed them out in a couple of situations massively with his legs and being freaking Superman. So for me, it's both lines of scrimmage for Florida.
This kind of leads into the Notre Dame conversation.
But you and I aren't before we get there, because we're going to Notre Dame next.
Wait, say it again.
You hold on Florida, or keep going with Florida, because we're getting to Notre Dame next.
I don't have anything else to really add with Florida. I just don't think that I agree with the way that roster is, and I think it's very talented, but I don't think I learned anything from them after beating up on LIU. I think that
did we learn about anybody who played Rudy Putex in week 1?
No, but I didn't have Florida as a top 10 team coming into the season.
I did.
I thought that Florida was in the teens. I thought they were a quality team. I think that Notre Dame, for what it's worth, being as high on Miami as I am, after what they did, and they finally win a big, tight game, and Carson Beck played as well as he did, and the defense played as well as it needed to, Notre Dame's performance is recognizable for the fact that they did not play their best ball game, and they still only lost by 3. They had a lot of mistakes. They had multiple turnovers, silly late penalties, and they still only lost by 3. They had a position to win it. If they had a veteran quarterback leading that drive, game could have ended completely differently. They could have won that ball game.
If I had six-pack abs and really big arms, I could still be playing football too.
Forget that. Okay, forget that for a second. I shouldn't have added that contingency. My point is that I have proof of what Notre Dame has done against a top team, and they narrowly lost. I think that Notre Dame and Florida, if they squared up right now, that Notre Dame would win. Plain and simple.
I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I mean, I'm just not there because again, who's to say? I mean, Joe, have you figured out what you're going to do with Tyreek Sapp? Have you figured out what you're going to do with your offensive line? Have you figured out what you're going to do in chaotic situations? Yeah, I thought Carr played well. I thought he played really well in some stints, but at the same time, I mean, let's not act like that Florida offensive line can't get pushed and ball's not coming at you with a full force. And be real with you, I'm taking ball over any running back on any one of most of these teams. I'm not going to say all, but most of these teams. I mean,
Miami has a better offensive line than Florida's, and
they don't have a better interior defensive tackle, though.
But that's not what I said, though. They have a better offensive line than Florida's, and Notre Dame was able to generate a ton of penetration on run plays, and they were able to slow down Miami's rushing attack in the second half.
Here's what I listen. I'm not saying you're doing this. This is what I've seen. This is what I hear when I look at Notre Dame and the loss. Oh, we only lost by 3. You're right. You only lost by 3. And I thought Cristobal completely mismanaged the end of that game. Completely. Not putting the ball in Carson Beck's hands was absolutely asinine, in my opinion. However, in that, I got to see what you do against other really experienced and physical offensive lines and defensive lines too. Like the first half is still ingrained in my brain. They got pushed around. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say they got pushed around. And I don't think if Cristobal doesn't mismanage the end of that game, I got to be real with you. I think it's more of a 10-point game there at the end. If he does, Joe, he ran the same play from the same formation 3 straight times.
Well, Dawson was the one who was calling.
Sure, but you can't convince me that he's not on the headset telling him to run the football. You can't, because after he's mismanaged so many other situations, I can't be convinced it's just his OC. I can't be convinced of it. Okay, I'm not saying Notre Dame. I have Notre Dame in my top 10 for what it's worth. So we're kind of fighting over semantics. I'm not saying they're bad at all. They looked good. What I'm saying is, Joe, I think there needs to be a deeper look on both lines of scrimmage about what actually happened. They're still a top 10 team. But at the same time, if I'm going to have to look at Florida and what they have on both lines of scrimmage, I don't know what I don't know. And you might be 1,000% right that Florida might be a fugazi. At the same time,
I'm not saying that Florida's fugazi. I'm merely just saying that I need to see what they actually do. They were mediocre last year, and they need to prove themselves before we can commit to them in being a top 10 team.
Okay, I'm with you there. But at the same time, we could say that about a lot of other teams that are on these rankings too. They play nobodies.
But that's not what my take is, though. But the difference here with a team like Florida,
Oregon played to nobody.
Wait, a difference here between a team like Florida compared to Oregon or Georgia or Penn State is that I have the cores of those rosters and those teams producing success last year. I know we're not driving our decision making off of 2024, but Billy Napier has not had a successful team yet. He hasn't. That is one of these things is not like the other. He is the only coach or the only team on there that has not produced success. So we don't know if this is not all just hype. That's my point.
I asked you at the end of the season or the beginning of the season of last year with the schedule that Florida had. If they got to 8 wins, could Billy Napier be a candidate for Coach of the Year? And you said yes. He won 8 games.
The 8th game was a bowl game.
I don't give two Rudy Poos. I don't give two Rudy Poos.
It was a bowl game against Tulane.
Oh, and I give 2 Rudy Poos how?
That's not a successful season, Blake.
For them.
Wait, stop. Blake, we're talking about putting them in the top 10 at number 7.
Yeah.
They've never been that good under Billy Napier. I'm not saying that they can't be. I'm saying that there's a legitimate shot, and I'm very high on this Florida team. I really think that Florida's going to be a rising team, but I don't have a proof of concept yet. And they played LIU. I think it's too sudden to do that.
Okay, let me ask a question. What quarterback are you taking right now? DJ Lagway or CJ Carr?
I'm obviously taking DJ Lagway. I love DJ Lagway.
Are you taking Caleb Banks? Or are you taking the defensive line that you have at Notre Dame?
You know that I'm going to say yes to all of these
then what are we arguing over? If you're taking the three big things that win you football games, what are you taking?
Blake, we can't just throw them in there after beating LIU. We just can't.
No, I already would have had them in there.
They're one of the most unproven hype teams coming into this season. Plain and simple. They're one of the most unproven, hyped up teams. I'm one of those people that are supporting the hype, but I can't go as far as to put them into a top 10 because for the hype to be actualized, they got to do something first.
Here's the good thing. Florida plays A&M and Miami, and we're going to get a pretty good barometer of what they could do against.
Yeah, and that's very soon. I can't wait to see that one. Can we talk about LSU next so I can anger you?
LSU at number 2 for you. LSU at number 3 for me. Continue.
Well, I mean, like, why? I know that you don't want to come off as a homer, so I guess I'll do it for you. They went on the road and beat the best team in the ACC in my eyes, a team that was loaded with defensive talent that they did get pretty good push on. They ran the ball really effectively. They were the most balanced team. Call it what it is. Let's be real. No one has said this. LSU was the most balanced team in week 1. All the other teams that we hyped up and we talked about that had really good performances either didn't play anyone good or they had some sort of an issue. Ohio State's offense had one of the worst explosive play rates in college football this past weekend.
Yeah, fair.
They were great. I'm putting them at number 1, and I'm about to hype them up in a second when we talk about them. But LSU was the most balanced team. They deserve to go ahead of Penn State and at least be at number 2.
I can't give you balance. I love LSU. You know I do.
But what wasn't where was their weakness in the game?
Right guard.
Okay, that's so specific, though. I'm just talking about offense, defense, run, pass offense, pass defense, run offense, run defense.
Hold on. I'm not going to play it, but this is a video clip, okay, of the all 22, okay? I need to see more from that offensive line. I know Penn State can run the ball on anybody. We're fighting over, again, in reference to LSU and me not putting them at 2, I'm fighting over semantics.
I'm shocked that we're doing that on this show.
Correct. I don't disagree with Lee Corso that LSU, Penn State, without a shadow of a doubt to me, and I don't care that they played Nevada, Penn State looked good. They look sharp. They look really good. LSU, I thought, left some things on the field offensively. If they show me this week and next that they can get vertical offensively, they'll be at number 1 for me. They'll be at number 1. I think that right now, if you ask me, though, who am I legitimately? Blake's a homer. I get it. If you're telling me LSU, Penn State today, I'm taking LSU. I'm taking Bernard Gooden by week 4 is going to be a household name. You mark my words. Number 88 in the interior. He absolutely whipped all 5 offensive linemen at least once in a rep. He dominated them. So, look, I know for on a shadow of a doubt, Penn State can run the football on anyone. I saw them do it against the national champion a year ago. Need to see LSU be a little bit more consistent there. I get it. Penn State didn't play anybody. LSU, for what it's worth, did something that they shut a lot of people up. I will say this. I have literally 14 live shows of me being at 14 practices during the fall. I'm not trying to say I called this because I didn't necessarily. I said either you were really bad on offense or you're elite on defense. Joe, they're there for me. I don't think people are going to figure out what to do about Harold Perkins because Patrick Payton set up a lot of those pressures for Perk. A lot. Joe, they were so panicked that they were sliding and then other dudes are making plays. All that being said, LSU deserves to be, if you even put them at number 1, they deserve to be there.
I almost did it, and here's my biggest deciding factor.
Please don't do it. Please don't do it. Every time you do this, we get jinxed.
Garrett Nussmeier. I needed to see Garrett Nussmeier in a primetime matchup against the top defense.
You look good.
I needed to see the kid be more composed, make the right decisions, and not turn the ball over. And that quite literally is the first time he's done it. If you go back at his game logs from last year, he had turnovers in all of their big games. The fact that he made that much of a leap, we're not even talking about him having one interception. No picks. He played a lot cleaner. I know that Drew Aller
were kind of elite in a way. Yeah. Like, hey, this is solid coverage, and he's either Aaron's going to catch it or no one else is.
Right. I know Aller still needs a chance to prove himself as well, but at the current moment, I would take Nussmeier over Aller with two teams that are pretty evenly matched. That's my take.
I would take Garrett right now. Here's the thing with Garrett before we move on to another team or two here. Joe, the zone read, him checking at the line, knowing the protections, the chips that he kept calling on TJ Parker. Joe, Garrett might have figured it out, dude. He might have figured it out. That makes LSU very dangerous. Let's see if they can get vertical this week. All right, both of us have Ohio State at number 1, Joe.
This one's pretty easy. They have the best win of this past week. And they answered a lot of questions for me that I now feel a lot more secure in. The interior of their defensive line, it's not as deep as a team like Texas, but it still played really well. I think that we learned that there's some serious athletes across the defense. I'm in love with Avril Reese. That kid is
very good.
Disruptive. Mm-hmm. And then they have the best linebacker duo in college football with him and Sonny Styles. They might have the best secondary as well. As Matthews played great, Igbinosun played great. We know Caleb Downs is a dude. Their offensive line was sturdy enough, and it did a good enough of a job. I need to see them run the ball a little bit better because there were a lot of stopped plays at the line of scrimmage. Julian Sayin as well looked very solid for what he needed to do, like we talked about. There's a chance that this could get reshuffled. If LSU beats Florida, I'd gladly put LSU ahead of Ohio State. But at the current moment, this Ohio State team proved that they've got the best defense in the country, and their offense is reliable enough that they can move the chains and win a close ball game by getting a touchdown in tight situations.
They're the reigning national champion, and then they beat Texas. Here's the thing. Can I tell you something? And I knew I would get killed if I did this, so I didn't. I almost kept Texas in my top 5.
I don't think that would have been egregious.
Well, you know how people would have reacted to that. They faced off against the best front 7 in the country. They did. And I think that Ryan Day looked so composed and confident that, hey, man, we can play conservative today, and we're going to beat them because they can't score. Joe, they answered a question, a really big one, because I don't think Arch was as bad as people were thinking that he was bad. He made some misses. He just didn't know where things were coming from. He was confused. And I agree with Sark in his postgame when he said, listen, man, we were confused. Like, Sark owned it. Like, hey, man, we were a little bit confused, and we put Arch in a lot of bad situations. Good for Sark for, composing himself and actually admitting that. Joe, Ohio State better run the football, though. But the problem with the Ohio State run game at the current moment is they did face off against the best front 7 in the country to me. So, again, godly. I mean, they have the best win. I think Sayin will be better. I don't think they have those drops. I think they can get the run game going. I am a little bit like, hey, man, I know it's Texas, but Hartline had some issues running against really good defenses when he was the OC. And I don't like this. I don't like some of the stuff that they did in the run game. If you ask me on a neutral field who I'm taking, Penn State, Ohio State, we got to have a conversation. We got to have a conversation, like a serious.
I think I'm still taking Ohio State.
I think I would too, but there's going to have to be a conversation that's got to be had here.
Yep.
All right. Any other teams that you want to get to before we move on here?
No, we got to rip through these previews.
All right. Joe, Kansas takes on Missouri this weekend, and our good friends over at FanDuel had the Mizzou Tigers -6.5. Kansas, who is 2-0, who played in week 0 and week 1, plays off against the boys from Como. Joe, when you see this Missouri-Kansas game going down, how do you see it playing out?
Look, Kansas they've been fun. I haven't played anyone, but Jalon Daniels is doing his typical Jalon Daniels bit. 80% completion percentage in their first 2 games against mediocre small school opponents. 10 yards per attempt. This offense looks exactly like we knew it was under Lance Leipold, where it's explosive, it's confusing, it's creative, it's fun. But Blake, I'm taking Missouri minus 6.5 against Kansas in this game. And it's quite simple. They run the ball really freaking well with Pribula and Hardy. But there is a stark separation between the lines of scrimmage between Missouri and between Kansas. Damon Wilson, 2 sacks in this first game. That kid is freaking good. Zion Johnson, another dude, freaking good. Their front 7 is phenomenal. Their offensive line's good. It's quality offensive line. But in this game specifically, I think that they've got a pretty big edge. Blake, I said this last week, and it was my lock of the week. I said, give me Auburn to cover against Baylor and to win. And that shit hit because of me pointing out that they were stronger on both lines of scrimmage. Give me the SEC against a Big 12 team in any day when there is this much of a stark difference.
Yeah. I do think this border war, which is what it's called in the rivalry, I think this one can be pretty close early because I think both teams love to run the football. The biggest question that everyone asks when, hey, man, 3 straight seasons with Eli Drinkwitz, or 2 straight seasons. 2 straight seasons with Eli Drinkwitz having 10 wins. How did it happen? He finds dudes out of the portal at running back. Ahmad Hardy goes to Missouri. Joe ran 10 carries, 100 yards last week. Pribula looked like a really special athlete. I get it, Central Arkansas. I think that they are going to be able to be the better version of what Kansas wants to be in moments and times. The question is can Jalon Daniels get through all 4 quarters against a Power 4 opponent? And every single week I worry about it. I do think that there were some times that Fresno State gave Kansas some issues up front, especially early. When they tried to get on the outside, Joe, Fresno State was able to keep some contain early. Then they just got worn down, didn't have the depth. I look at Missouri and say the lines of scrimmage is where I'm looking at the most. But I do wonder, there was some points in times where Missouri was kind of lethargic in the beginning of that game. They're rotating in multiple quarterbacks. I know Sam Horn only had one play. Are they playing around with their food or are they serious? Because that run game under Drink has always been pretty damn good.
And I mean, like, I'm not, I know, and this is like the recurring theme. I'm not putting a lot of stock into how they played against an FCS opponent. Central Arkansas is a decent FCS team. It's a competitive team. They're going to show up and fight. But I really think that where the separation is had is more specifically with this defensive line getting after Jalon Daniels. And you just talk about, I'm not trying to project here that he gets hurt. That's not what I'm trying to do. But you've got a guy that has had inconsistent health throughout his career. He's played so much football because of it. And you've got Wilson, who has been deemed this really high upside pass rusher that needed an opportunity to start full time in a less crowded unit. And you have Young, who's a guy in NFL circles is considered to be a potential riser in this upcoming draft. I think that this is going to be a game where Daniels is going to be pressured and smothered every single time he drops back. I really think that it's going to be very similar to, I know I'm like drawing a lot of comparisons to the Baylor-Auburn game, but Sawyer Robertson in a couple of areas, he had Keldrick Falk and that crew coming after him. I think that the same thing applies here. And I don't think Kansas is anywhere near as good of a team as Baylor is. And I think that Missouri and Auburn, Missouri's a better team than Auburn. I know I'm trying to do a little bit of transitive property here, but when we're sticking to the theme that I'm trying to bring up is that the line of scrimmage, the physicality, who is going to win those matchups? I'm going to take a squad that's got 2 great pass rushers going up against a okay Big 12 offensive line.
Because of week 0 and week 1, a lot of people were saying to themselves, and remember in week 0, did Jalon Daniels figure out something throwing the football? It was highly accurate in week 1, highly accurate in week 2, did some really good things the first 2 weeks. Last week, Joey had 4 passing touchdowns. He did throw the interception, but I do wonder if they can kind of make him and force him to stay in that pocket. Joe, what does he do? What does he do? Has he worked on that area of his game? Or is what we're seeing him as when he does make these really good throws down the field, is he making right decisions? Is he making the right play? Against a better opponent will be a big thing here. So we'll see. I'm with you. I am also probably going to take Missouri in the points. We'll talk about this in just a little bit more. But Joe, Kansas has also had 3 turnovers in their first 2 games against really bad opponents. And I do wonder, when you're turning the ball over against bad opponents, what is good opponents, what are they able to do to you? 3. I know it's not a lot, but it also is like, man, if they can get out of after Jalon Daniels, does he make a wrong decision? And Missouri, who first forced a lot of turnovers last week, can they continue on that same path?
I think it's a really good point to bring up. The last kind of thought that I have is, the Sam Horn situation is tough, and I thought Pribula showed some positive signs with the limited passing attempts that he had. I mean, 82% completion percentage is silly for any opponent that you're going up against. I do think, or I do wonder, and I want to see how much can they incorporate him as a passer as the full-time quarterback? How does this offense look? Are they going to just lean on his legs and Ahmad Hardy's legs? Pribula was one of these guys that just fits the billing of being like a really quality, impactful college quarterback that just does everything right, is going to grind you out, is going to fight for extra yards, kind of like a light version of Riley Leonard. That's what you can get out of him at Missouri this year, and I'm excited to see this first challenge for Pribula to prove what he's capable of doing.
Here's a hot take. Pribula is what all of y'all thought Avery Johnson was.
Well, he's only played 1 game.
Okay.
And Avery Johnson's still only a junior.
What's Pribula?
He is a graduate transfer senior. He's a 5th year. He's been around for a minute.
My man's going to run all over him.
Oh, that I don't disagree with.
He's going to run all over him. All right, we have a couple of super chats here. Elks with a $2 super chat says, inside sources, Heartline did not call the game for Ohio State.
I don't have any counter sources, so I can't confirm or deny this. Elks sent us a super chat on Monday, and we missed it, by the way. He said, thoughts on ESECPN Texas spin after the loss. I mean, are we shocked that also that was something that happened, that like they're piping up Texas? Like, I don't think that that's like anything that we should truly be surprised by.
I don't think it's a spin job. I think that they're still a really good team.
That's the other part too.
I mean, like, here's going to be the biggest laughing thing of all season. You ready? So many people talking all that craziness with Arch. Arch is going to get better. He's going to get better. Stop.
And that was what we talked about after the game.
Right.
So it's not.
Stop, man. Yeah. I know. You know what's so crazy is I was the one when he was being recruited telling everybody on this show, pump the brakes. You remember this, Joe. I'm like, y'all got to pump the brakes. He's not there yet, as he can be, but he's not there yet. And now I'm the one defending him, saying, okay, hold on. The one that y'all has the best Heisman odds on FanDuel, by the way,
that should never have happened.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I saw Garrett Nussmeier threw 2 pick sixes versus an FCS opponent.
Yeah.
Can we please calm down?
Right.
Like, good Lord. Brian says, a $2 super chat says, best front 7 give up 4.6 yards per carry and 0 pressures.
Talking about Texas, It's the first game of the season. Yes, they got outperformed. Yes, they didn't get any pressures. That's an issue. But I still think that
The longest run they gave up was 8 yards.
Yeah, they didn't give up any big runs. They got the ball out extremely quick. Sam played well, but the more emphasis point here is that they were getting the ball out really quick. That's why there were zero pressures that happened. There weren't really many 3rd and long situations or like
No. He had one and he threw a fade route to Carnell Tate.
We need the context there. We need the context.
Yeah, you need the context there.
Another one.
This from a former Ohio State coach who still has friends on staff. Also, ignore Brian. He said Underwood is C.J. Stroud and Cam Newton. He's a Michigan homer. He says he's talking OSU. Oh, okay.
Oh. Well, I don't think that they're the best front seven. I think they have a good front seven. I don't think that they're the
No,
best.
you just face off against the best front seven if you're Ohio State.
Yeah. I didn't know Brian was a Michigan guy. That's funny. We've got
I know. Just to answer the super chat, I have no idea what I'm going to say about. I don't know what to say about Heartline. All right.
Yeah. Shit.
Good Lord.
1 second.
You got to go get a battery.
I am. I'm going to.
You got to go get like 70 of them.
Yeah, I know. I've been having issues. I'm aware. I'm working on resolving it. It's been a shit week tech wise, but whatever.
Iowa versus Iowa State. The Cyhawk Trophy is going down this weekend. Joe, when you look at the game, your thoughts?
Look, I know Iowa State fans are probably going to be awfully excited to hear this because last time I picked against them, they won. Maybe there's a little bit of a LSU curse in play here where whenever I pick against them, this team wins. Blake, I do really believe that Iowa is going to win this game. I think that Iowa State has shown a lot of positive things offensively to answer the questions of how they were going to bounce back from losing Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. They've gotten a lot of production out of Burkle and Brahmer, their tight ends, and they've both made some huge plays for this offense. Their running back tandem of Hansen and Sama are also super downhill. They've also been killing it on special teams, doing all the little things right.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this Iowa squad, I know that Gronowski had a rough game against Albany. I'm going to keep coming back to it. The lines of scrimmage are the most important thing for me. This Iowa offensive line is one of the best in the country. One of the best top 10 in all of college football. They have a squad of guys that will get NFL opportunities. Dunker is a downhill mauler. Logan Jones is one of the better centers in the country. I think that if they can play their game, grind it out with Xavier Williams, slow the game down, and rely on their offensive linemen, that is going to be their key to victory.
Last time I talked about Iowa State, excuse me, just got done talking about Ohio State. Iowa State, as I said that I didn't think Rocco Becht was an accurate enough quarterback. And boy, they hated that. And the truth is, he still isn't. He still isn't. So I'm ready for all of you to come in here and say that he is. And the hate that I'm going to get on Twitter, that's okay. Because I think this game is the one that will bear it out too. I don't think he was good against Kansas State. I don't. Kansas State had so many issues. Look at what happened to them last week. Look what happened to them last week. This is a big-time rivalry game, though. And these two hate one another. And anything can happen in rivalry games. It's early in the season. It's for the state. As a fan of Iowa deer hunting, I can tell you from people that live there, this is going to be an all-out war because it always is. Who's the more physical team? Who is the more physical team going to be in this one? I think it's Iowa too. However, this whole passing game stuff and what they do and can't do offensively is god-awful. It is god-awful. Joe, Gronowski went 8 of 15 for 44 yards.
It was bad. It was gross to watch.
It was really horrible. It was horrible. Can we get with the program here? Like, I know you ran for 300 plus, and that's your game. Run the football, play really good defense. I get your whole stick here. You can't keep doing this. You're going to have to open it up. You're banging your head up against a wall. Can you get Gronowski more involved in the run game where he can have success? Can you be downhill? That's what you're going to have to do, and you're going to have to generate some turnovers that Rocco Becht will give you. But, man, again, I don't know what to make of this Iowa team ever, because it's just like, dude, walk-ons had better numbers than Gronowski did. You played one 2 years ago.
Gronowski has never been a highly impactful passer, and I've watched a lot of Gronowski. I've seen him play in person for 2 games. He has always kind of been the FCS Tim Tebow. He has been the big-bodied guy that is going to put his body on the line, that is going to fight to pick up a first down as a runner. He has never been a dynamic passer. 44 yards against Albany is way below the standard, though. It's way below what we expect. And he has smoked CAA teams in his past career for tons of production. So this was completely away from what we expected. It kind of makes me wonder if quarterbacks really do go to die when they choose to play for Iowa. And I'm not trying to take a dig at Iowa, but it's really weird that this keeps happening. The kids keep showing up and they just can't throw the ball. I'm hoping that there is something that is saved here, because if there is, he can be really, really transformative for this team, and he can be the reason why they win. I think a lot of people are going to be really lazy and just say, he played like shit, therefore Iowa loses. I think that is way too simple, and you're foregoing a lot of the great things that he did at South Dakota State when he won the FCS Heisman. He won multiple national championships. He knows how to step up to the plate in a close game. I think that if this game does end up being close, I would take Gronowski and I would take Iowa.
Even if they can't throw the ball?
I mean, they've survived and they've won without throwing the ball very much in the past.
But they didn't against Iowa State last year, and it was the same issue.
McNamara wasn't the same level of athlete that Gronowski is.
I feel like I'm just going to go on College Football 26 and become the new head coach of Iowa and throw for 700 yards in game 1 and then retire in week 2.
Well, you would transform that program.
For one game.
Yeah.
For one game. I'm going to do that. I get it. I know that you like Gronowski a lot. You've seen him a lot. You've studied him a lot. I keep saying Iowa State has got to try to get this one up early. Get up a couple of scores. Be ultra aggressive, because if you're able to be ultra aggressive and go up early, 10, 14, 14-3, whatever it is, that's when I start thinking, I keep saying it, Iowa would start to panic a little bit here and try to have to get away from the things that they do. And then they're just predictable. So I see a path for Iowa State, as much as they hate my guts. But I also get to a situation where I look at this and say to myself, can I see you complete a forward pass in a meaningful situation?
That's why I'm not like completely gung-ho, just like rushing to say, give me Iowa, they're going to win, give me Iowa. But I think to that point is that, like, Becht has improved. I think that we need to give him recognition. He has gotten better. He was 19 of 20 last week, and it was against South Dakota. So, it's with a grain of salt. And they also took him out pretty early in that game. I do agree with you that we got to see real consistency against the top opponent, because he was all over the place against Kansas. It was raining, understandably. That's a fair excuse to be given to a kid, but I got to see him complete over 60% of his passes in one of these big games for once. He's made big plays in big games in the past, but I kind of wonder in a situation like this, if his accuracy is as inconsistent as it's been in a game like this, and this game ends up being low scoring, I'm going to take the team that is the kings of winning ugly football games. That's
and
Iowa.
This one could get very ugly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could get very ugly. So we'll see. All right, Joe, before we wrap up here, let's get to our game picks here, presented by our good friends over at FanDuel. As the standings go right now, I am 4-4. Joe is 3-5. Hell to Miami. The victors on Saturday. I mean, I gotta throw that out.
You clown on me for taking Florida State, by the way.
I did. I can't believe I'm such an idiot. But Iowa versus Iowa State, Joe, both of us just talked about this game. Both of us taking Iowa -2.5.
Yeah, I think that I know that 2.5 isn't exactly like a super sexy hook for them to cover that spread, but I'd actually willingly take Iowa money line because I really do think that Iowa is going to win this game. I think that they're going to try and bounce back from losing in the way that they did last year, that they need to lock in. Everything that we just stated in the preview, I'm going to rock with the Hawkeyes.
I feel the same as you here. I think that Iowa is in a situation where even though I just trashed them for God knows how long, I do think they're going to be able to run the ball. I'm going to give Gronowski another week and see what this looks like before we just bail on him. But this game gets crazy, and I'm going to take the home team here when we look at it. Cy-Hawk Trophy going back to Iowa. Kansas at Missouri. Joe, both of us taking the Tigers.
Yes. As we just said there, I'm taking the advantage for what they have defensively. I really think that they're going to get after Jalon Daniels. I think that they're going to establish the run early with the advantage that they have with their offensive line. I think all of that stuff is going to contribute pretty heavily to a victory for Missouri and for them to cover and win by more than a touchdown.
For Kansas to be on the map, they got to get this one. And I thought long and hard about this one. If this one could play out really close, because I don't know what I'm going to get from Pribula, and I don't know what I'm going to ultimately get from Missouri. Then I think about Missouri's defense, and I think they will be able to stop Jalon Daniels. I'm going to take Missouri in the points too. If I were to bet this game, it's one of my better bets. I wouldn't give up the 6.5. I would go money line. I think that this one could be like I'm with you. I feel
I don't know if
pretty
you're going to get great odds on that, but
I don't care. I don't care. But I'm there to win, big or small. Doesn't matter to me how I win. Regardless of all that, I'm going to take the Missouri Tigers here. Joe, let's go to game 3 here. Michigan versus Oklahoma. Both of us going with the Wolverines +5.5.
So I said in the preview, and I also said in the thumbnail of the video that Oklahoma was going to win. I've actually turned on this. I've talked to a couple people, and I kind of dug into how Oklahoma played in their first game. Their offensive line still got problems, and there's some reshuffling that's happening as well that really should be a concern. It really should be a worry. I think that there's a legit shot that Michigan can slow the game down, keep it low scoring, get some pressures. Mateer also had a couple of issues here and there in that game. I'm going to take Michigan to cover, but I think that it's totally plausible for them to win as well.
I do too. I mean, listen, like we talked about on what was it, Sunday or Monday when we broke this game down. What was my big thing that we talked about in this one? Joe, listen, I get that they blew out Illinois State or whoever the hell they played. I get all of that. They got pushed around up front at times in the run game against a very bad opponent. Like, I'm not trying to put down on the opponent that they played, but you got to be able to outrush teams like that if you're in the SEC. Why couldn't you? Why couldn't you? Oh, man.
It's a serious issue that it's kind of getting completely overlooked. Their offensive line, their run game, the lack of production there. The more that I've thought about it, the more I actually feel pretty strongly that
Mateer, for them to win, Mateer has got to be Heisman level special.
Yes, and he's got to stay off the ground. That's the biggest key.
Well, and not only that, Joe, he made some bad decisions last week. Like, he had a lot of turnovers last year. He made some bad decisions. All right. Now, and Michigan's out without their best defensive player in the first half, and I don't care. Like, they are that good in their front seven. They will get after you, brother. You better beware. Yeah. That's all I'm saying here. All right. Joe, Illinois versus Duke, the only one that we differ on this week. I'm taking the Illini. You're rolling with the Blue Devils. Your thoughts?
Dude, they get the game at home, and I I really strongly believe that defense for Duke is incredibly underrated. And I think that Darian Mensah is one of those special kinds of quarterbacks that can take over a game. And I think that this is going to be the spotlight for him to do so. So I'm going to take, I would straight up take Duke money line, but I'm going to take him to cover in this situation.
I'm just looking up very quickly.
Uh-oh.
Because I know that they played Elon, but I couldn't remember. Joe, they got outrushed by Elon. I thought that I was correct. They gave up 163 yards on the ground. 163. I think Brett Bielema and the boys are coming in there and they're going to roll.
I'm not worried about that.
They're going to roll, brother. They're going to run the ball. I think they're going to run the ball all over Duke. If Elon can do it, you can do it. You showed me nothing. Unless Manny Diaz was pulling a quick one on me and did not show me, and they were just kind of playing around and be like, we kind of want him to run the football, and we're going to do shitty against Elon. I don't know. Brett Bielema and the boys are coming up there as big old linemen to clap some things.
No, I'm sticking with Duke, man. I think that they're going to surprise him.
What is going on right now? I am taking 2 Big Ten teams over the SEC or
not the SEC
teams.
Yes.
Okay. And I get labeled the homer, by the way. I get labeled the Big Ten
because
hater.
it's the one time that you do it and you spent the whole offseason shitting all over the Big Ten. That's why.
I mean, I'm Big Ten Blake.
That's not true. That's absolutely not true.
Ole Miss minus 10.5 versus Kentucky. Both of us think Ole Miss rolls here.
Dude, I know that I'm probably going to regret this, and I said it in the preview, but that Kentucky team's got no juice. That Kentucky team was scraping by in their first game against Toledo. Couldn't do anything. Not explosive. Calzada looked shaky. Give me Ole Miss to win by 2 scores or more.
I think that there's a path for Kentucky to cover here. I think there's a path. I like Austin Simmons a lot, and I think he's going to be really good. He threw 2 picks. And regardless of what we want to say about Kentucky and regardless of what we want to say about how bad they are offensively, I think it's either one of 2 things. I don't think it's like a 10 to 14 point game. I think either Ole Miss is going to legitimately blow them out, like 40, 42 points, whatever it is. Or Austin Simmons is going to make some bad decisions like he did last week, and they start turning the ball over, and you keep giving the ball back to a team that can actually kind of run the ball. Joe, they gave up 191 yards on the ground last week to Georgia State. I think the first thing that I said is going to happen. Okay, I think they're going to get there. But man, it has the opportunity to go the exact way it did a season ago. It does.
I just find it so hard to believe that that's going to happen, though, because again,
I do too.
Really
That's why I picked Ole Miss.
I think Kiffin is incredibly vindictive, and I think that he's going to put an extra little bit of mustard on this one.
I agree, but you know what? He's not the quarterback, and he's got to be the one to make decisions. And Austin Simmons had 2 really bad balls last week. Pause. But he did. He threw 2 picks.
He's got a chance to bounce back here.
He does. All right. See y'all on Sunday. What is week 2 going to bring? Boy, I'm excited. I hope you are too. See y'all then. Peace.